Howdy there, folks. Glenn with the almost world-famous Cactus Atlas, about to take you on a road trip adventure through the state of Nevada. I almost find it hard to believe myself that I am just right outside of Las Vegas, the northwest side of Las Vegas, up at over 8,000 feet at elevation at a campground called McWilliams Campground, part of the Humboldt-Toyabe National Forest. I wouldn't blame anybody for citing the Yosemite vibes in here with a really large gray mountain in the background and all these pine trees. It's very reminiscent of that. And right outside of Vegas, people are out there drunk right now, playing slot machines, smoking cigarettes. And here we are in the 70s here, and it's in the hundreds down in the desert. Nice and cool and beautiful and absolutely quiet in the middle of the week. Before I excite one or two of you, this is not a campground episode like we've done in the past here on the Cactus Atlas. It's just the beginning of a road trip. The majority of it happening tomorrow, actually in the morning when we wake up from here. This is just a stopover tonight. And I am going to take you right outside here so maybe we can get better views of the surroundings here before we start off. But I thought it would be fun to start filming here at my quarters for the night, wake up, and then we'll drive all the way to Death Valley tomorrow, staying inside of Death Valley, and we're going to be seeing lots of things in between. So not going to spoil it all just yet. For those of you familiar with Camp View, our other YouTube channel where we focus on our camping niche here on YouTube, I will be doing a drive-through of this campground to help you select a site if you choose to come here. So be sure to check that out. It's likely already out now, but I will give you a quick taste here on the Cactus Atlas of my quarters, which I'm not going to be, I don't have time to do this for Camp View this time around. But anyway, I'm in site number 21. So I chose this one. The pictures online on recreation.gov where you can make reservations here. They do have first come, first serve, by the way. Did a pretty good job at depicting the site. And I chose it because the tent pad looked like it was pretty isolated and far down away from anybody, and that proved to be very true. My nearest neighbors, I don't know where their tent would go. They have a path that they'd have to walk down, but there's really nobody across the street from me other than way up there on the hill. And I do have what I assume is a restroom right back there, but really cool campground. Absolutely beautiful. And being that it's Wednesday in the middle of the week, I'm assuming that's why this is so empty right now. I've never seen a fire ring quite like this that has the concrete elevation in the middle. It's good to elevate it like that though, and on this whole, all of the campsites have paved sections like this here at the top, and then usually like a easy way to get down to your tent or quarters, and once again inside of this beautiful, what I presume is a Ponderosa pine forest. I find summertime is the best time to sniff Ponderosa pine, and on my travels, when I'm in regions in the summer where they have them, you can smell that sweet smell in the air a little bit better than other times, I think. So let's take a sniff here. It's been a while since I sniffed a Ponderosa pine on the channel. I think that one over there looks like a good one. All right, let's try it. Oh yeah, I can smell it very clearly. Oh, it's so good. I think it is the summer, Amy. We always surmise about that. But these have like a vanilla butterscotch smell is the best way I can put it. And when it's popping, when it's hitting right, it's hitting right. And it's hitting right today. Oh, it's hitting really good. People think I'm crazy, I'm sure. If you smelled it, you wouldn't. Okay, so what I thought I would do is drive us right outside the campground. There's some more open sections where we can get a better look at the landscape, and we're in a national forest, so we should be in drone-friendly skies too. So I might be able to get up higher, and we'll get away from the campground so we don't disturb people with all the noise of doing that. But let's go see what we can see. So I just drove a couple miles from McWilliams Campground, which is nestled right around the corner over there in that forest. And there's a bunch of meadows here. This is Upper Lee Meadows. There's nobody here. It's a perfect place to fly a drone. And I really want to try to see if we can get up high enough to get this scene behind me. But I was calling it almost Yosemite-like scene. I don't know if that's granite, that gray rock, those big mountains there, but we'll take a look and see. We'll fly around here. All right, so I made my rounds. I did my camp view drive-through, as you could see on top of my truck Slim. Got my camp view set up there. So we did a drive-through through this campground, and that's really where I got my best look at it. And I love this campground. For the most part, I can't really think of any that stood out. Each campsite is very nicely spread out in here. Kind of look down this way too. Should be saying all this stuff on the Camp View channel, but because I love you guys on the Cactus Atlas also, I'll give you some campground loving, because it all started here. And the drone flight was pretty exciting. That meadow is a great place to get up in the air and film. The only issue was, so I'm in the Spring Mountains. That's the name of the mountains. I don't know if the mountain in front of us has a specific name. It probably does. It is so tall from ground level that I could barely get the drone up. I got it to 400 feet above ground level from where I was standing. And although I could have taken it higher up if I followed the mountainside, I kept it within my visual distance. So even at 400 feet above ground level, I couldn't really get a great shot of the mountain. There was still not enough sky behind it. If I followed the rule of thirds, I would have needed to ascend even higher than I did to get a better shot, just to show you the scale of what we're dealing with here. It's really a hidden gem, this place. I've noted this campground, McWilliams Campground, for years now. I've even had time booked here, and I had to cancel my plans in the past. And just the pictures make it look nice. I think this area is known for skiing. You'll see a lot of signs driving in here that point to ski resorts and stuff like that. So I'm guessing in the cooler months, this place is covered in snow since it was such a high elevation. But if you need a cool escape from Las Vegas, this is where I would be hanging out. Anywho, I think my game plan here is to pretty much just take it easy this evening, make some dinner here, and save my energy for tomorrow when the majority of this road trip episode is going to occur. I decided, why not share some campground life for the morrow? I was going to just kind of cut it and then just start filming in the morning, but I figure, what else am I really doing other than making hot dogs again? It's been a long time since I've actually made hot dogs. That used to be the main thing you'd see me eat on most episodes. I don't eat hot dogs that much anymore when I camp, so figured it's been a long time, so I'm kind of in the mood for it. And this is one of two primary ways that I cook on the road. Sometimes I do the charcoal thing. I have this mini Weber grill, and I just kind of break it down. I have a box that I keep it in, and it's easy when you make something like hot dogs, and that's not too messy, but it's worked well. And then I, of course, have propane. I've got a couple different, stoves to cook on also. And while I cook my hot dogs, I'm just taking in the overall really relaxed vibe of this place. It is just so quiet here. I just can't remark on how fantastic this is for a camping experience. This is really what camping is supposed to be like. Sometimes I forget. All right, I've got this going now, our hot dogs, so let's check on progress. Nothing fancy here. I hear it cooking. Looking good. Roll these off to the side. They're done for sure. Hot, hot, hot. Whew. Ah, hot and greasy. This is not easy without some kind of implement to grab it with, but I got it done. I think I overcooked the hot dogs just a smidge, a little dried out. But I have an abundance of this Gouda cheese, so let's wrap it. Might stay better. I think that might be the ticket right there. Get it to stay inside the bun. Melt the cheese a bit. Let's try that. It's catching a lot of heat right there, even without the top on. The coals are now like perfect. Not the fanciest looking things I've ever made, that's for sure. All right, let's try this out here. Not bad. Not bad at all. The Gouda makes it good. I mean, it's good as a hot dog, but you gotta make sure the Pringles are not lonely. You know, that'd be wrong of us. I'm sorry. I didn't forget you were there. I had to put on something a little bit warmer now that the sun isn't shining over here. The temperature went down. When I got up here, it was in the 70s earlier, a few hours ago. So I wouldn't be surprised if it gets down into the 60s, maybe upper 50s up at this elevation overnight. But every once in a while I kind of look up and I see like distant mountaintops glowing in the sun, reminding me how deep we are in this little, dare I say, canyon here. So for those of you that live in the desert, I show you all these secrets. The ones that aren't really hard. Even if you're from Phoenix, this could be a good weekend escape. Definitely not a day trip. But you could make a weekend of it if you left on a Friday and headed home on a Sunday, I think. If you need to cool off in the middle of summer and you want something different than Flagstaff. It's very similar to Flagstaff other than these giant mountains behind me. I decided to make a fire because this is probably one of the nights where it makes the most sense to do it. I've been toting around a bundle of firewood for months now, and I take it on trips sometimes. Sometimes I don't bother if I don't think it's going to be chilly enough to use it. I figured on this trip, I might give it a shot and see. Yeah, my first night, it's plenty chilly. I had actually put on sweatpants already, and the sun just went down, so it's probably not even 8 o'clock at night yet. And there's really not much of a breeze at all. So those two factors make it so that a fire is actually a welcome thing for once. So if there's too much of a breeze, I don't like it, and if it's not chilly enough, it's just, to me, it's pointless. So I'm more practical when it comes to my fires, I guess. I'll have you sit here from my point of view, looking at the fire. Those are my knees. Put feet up here. This is actually quite nice. And there's your shot with the tent in the background to go with it. I was sitting by the fire on my tablet reading actually some Mark Twain, one of his works called Roughing It, in preparation for something I'm doing later on this trip. And I was just sitting here first in my shorts and my t-shirt, and once the sun started going down, I was like, ooh, I need to put my sweatpants on, and then at the top, then the sweatpants, and then I was like, man, this is a good night for a campfire. And I always really like the first night of any road trip, especially when there's a campfire involved and everything's gone according to plan so far, and you know, the itinerary's worked. All I need to do is read a little bit more, hydrate a little bit more, and then hit the hay for an early morning. Okay, so from here, I think it's time for me to enjoy the rest of the evening alone. And I'm gonna sit here by the fire, finish up some reading, and then that should make me get sleepy all the more quickly. And then we can get on with our road trip in the morning. See you then. Good morning to you all. Not quite as early as I said I was going to leave. I decided to sleep in a little bit. I was really tired this morning, but it was well worth the extra winks, and we got plenty of time to traverse the desert and make our way over to Death Valley today. But I want to say goodbye to this place and maybe say a couple extra words, because this place is worth it. You can see everything's packed up. The tent is gone. It's kind of sad. I wish I had more than one day up in these parts, but couldn't have asked for a more perfect and idyllic camping experience than I had last night. I would say this was the most dead quiet, not even a breeze, night that I've ever had camping. Did not hear any neighbors at all, because we're spread out pretty far from each other and there's not that many people here. And I had a wonderful fire last night, probably the most enjoyed campfire of my life. It's just because there was no wind. I built it right. It was perfect, and it was needed because it got chilly here last night. I was kind of cold. So everything I would say got an A+ here at McWilliams Campground, and I highly recommend it. So now what we're gonna do is head back out this way, out towards that beautiful scenery in the truck, and then make our way north to Beatty, Nevada, more specifically Rhyolite, Nevada, then into Death Valley. We'll stop and say hello to the sign on the Beatty side. That road's been closed, so it's probably been open for a while, but last time I was up there, that road was still damaged from the hurricane damage they had from a couple years back. So, but everything should be open, and we're gonna end up in Furnace Creek in Death Valley today. Okay, friends, we are now about to depart, and we're heading back out. Gosh, I already forget the route in Nevada. It's a pretty popular route, but everything should be ready to go. And now we're leaving McWilliams Campground in Nevada. Any minute now, I'm expecting the dense forest of Joshua trees. There's some yucca-like or Joshua tree-like beings starting to poke their heads out. I think Joshua trees are a type of yucca, and at what point is it a Joshua tree and not a yucca? Because sometimes those yuccas are pretty big and they look like Joshua trees to me. And sometimes Joshua trees look kind of small and like yucca. But They are yucca. So what gives? What's the qualification? I decided to stop on this lonely stretch of road here to come take a look at some of these beautiful Joshua trees out here in Nevada. Some of you might not realize that we have Joshua trees in places other than California, more places than Joshua Tree National Park. You have them in Nevada as well as Arizona, my home state, which we've talked about many times on our channel here. And if you look far off in the distance, it's kind of hazy, but those really big mountains there, those are the Spring Mountains. And we were way up there somewhere over 8,000 feet, and you could see that mountainous region is really where all of those pine trees are concentrated, and it only takes minutes, and I mean minutes, to change your scenery to something like this. And then from here, it's even gonna get more barren as we make our way down to that valley down below. So are these Joshua trees, I guess is my question, or are they just generically known as yucca? Now, these are a lot smaller than the variety you would see at Joshua Tree National Park, but there are more than one variety of Joshua tree. We have a variety in Arizona. It's kind of bluish green in color if you look at it carefully, like the little leaves. So I don't know. I'm not really that studied to know. Whatever they are, they seem healthy. Just wanted to stretch my legs really quick and take advantage of this moment because it's still in the 9 a.m. hour out here, so it's not brutally hot yet, but it's getting there. It's gonna happen. So I wanted to come say hi to these yucca Joshua tree friends, and we'll continue down the road here. And we'll say goodbye to this otherwise fantastic area here in Nevada, the Mojave Desert, the upper reaches, I would assume, of the Mojave. Getting back on the road after that little stop here to admire some of these plants, and then we're heading down to the bottom of this valley. We're still quite high up. It's hazy, but you could see down there to that desert floor. I suspect, if I remember, we're not going to see too many Joshua trees because the Joshua trees like the higher elevations. They don't like to be in the baked heat. They have their zones of habitability. We are at 4,000 feet now. We just passed a sign for 4,000 feet, so we've come down halfway to where we're at. And the lower we go, the more sparse, I would say, or not as lush. The Joshua tree things are starting to get smaller, they appear to me, as they usually do. Just got a teeny cell phone signal, and I decided to plot a route on Google Maps to Rhyolite, and we have about an hour and 25 minutes to go, so not too horrible. I don't have a monster day of driving like usual, probably a couple hours total. Trying to do less monster drives on my trips and inch my way to where I want to go. And here's what I really wanted to show you. This is State Route 95 and a half mile, and that's what we're in essence taking, I think, as far as Beatty, is that. And then you're gonna see once we get down here, I'll kind of give you some footage of this desert down here.
US 95 north, signs for Beatty to Napa.
In the bottom of this valley, and then we'll compare. You'll be able to see, hopefully. If you're traveling between Vegas and like Tonopah or anything like that, chances are this may be a route you would take.
Turn left onto US 95 north.
Certainly the Death Valley.
To Napa.
All right, we made it back to the main route, Route 95. I guess there are a few Joshua trees down here. What was I thinking? We're still about 4,000 feet or so in elevation. We're not like at a really super low elevation. Not like where we're going to be at Death Valley. Below sea level, in fact, in the region that we're going to be in, I believe. We're not far from it. I'm on Route 374, and then we're making a right turn onto, I don't even know what the name of this road is. There are signs here you're going to see that are clearly here for Rhyolite. There's something else we're going to come take a 2024 look at. There's an open air museum, an art installation out here, the Goldwell Open Air Museum, right outside the border of town. As well as a couple other things we're going to see. There's a compact area with lots of history in here if you know where to look. But you're about to go back in time, well over 100 years now, to one of my favorite times to kind of ponder in our history, our American history. Rhyolite. Never has there been a town, I think, that has just been wiped off the face of the earth quite like this one was. And how is that? How did this place even come to be in the first place in this desolate region? And to warrant building even a train stop here. There's a train station up there that we're going to look at. And, they invested some money out here. All right, let's start with the origin story here of Rhyolite. May have mentioned it a couple times on the drive up here, but in short, there's no pun intended, there was a prospector, pretty well known one in these parts, named Shorty Harris, and his partner E.L. Cross, who in 1904, I want to say August, but maybe that's not as relevant for the story. We're out here in this region. I want to say studying maps of where the original bullfrog mine is. I want to say it's in Death Valley, and it's not like right here. Correct me if anybody out there knows if I'm wrong. Looking at maps, it's a few miles that way. And they were out here, they found some rocks, and the rocks had some very telltale signs of gold specks all embedded in the rock, and it was like a nice greenish blue turquoise color. So imagine this rock with gold spots all over it, this greenish color. Well, that's what the Shorty Harris and the L. Cross named the claim, the bullfrog, because the rock looked like a frog to them with all the splotches and spots and coloration in it. And to their delight, it was good gold. There was a lot of gold. It was a good find, and as happens with the time, word gets out, and people start flooding into the area with their mining tents and stuff. And then a town, I want to say that the name of the town was Amargosa, I don't think it's the modern one, or Amargosa Camp, which sprung up somewhere by the original mine, I think west of here. And then from there, another small town that we're going to go visit, the one or two things that remains, the only evidence, down around the front of this mountain was the first town that started to get built right after that discovery in the 1905, and it had multiple saloons, hotels, the telltale signs of a good boom town, but it lost out because a big mine, I want to say it's called the Montgomery Shoshone mine, was built somewhere in this region and really attracted all the work, and then necessitated a bigger town to be built right down the road from Bullfrog, which right that way. Not far at all. And then the rest, as they say, is history. In 1905, this became the de facto town, Rhyolite. And if you think of the early days in Rhyolite, think of the Old West, I guess. Think of people, the prospectors with their pack mules. Think of no electricity just yet. We're kind of in that time frame where things start to become more modern. But I think in the very earliest days, it would be safe to say this would have been more Old West than modern. But it would soon get infrastructure thanks to someone that you guys have heard of. And that gentleman's name was Charles Schwab, the one that you guys hear about all the time in modern investing. Charles Schwab heard about this, and he wanted a piece of the action, so he bought the interest in the Montgomery Shoshone mine in this area, and then started to invest in infrastructure out in this town. So by 1906 is when you're going to start to see telegraph poles and electricity coming into town, and lots of other creature comforts that this town is going to have, including, like say creature comfort, we would call them just, expected today, but piped water would be another thing that Mr. Schwab helped to finance, we'll say here. It's probably important at this point to mention just how big this area would have looked. Like, if you climb up that hill over there, like I did once in the past, my very first trip here, and look back towards the town site, this whole flat region in the middle is just crisscrossing streets, various blocks. This whole place would have been covered with homes, mostly wooden structures, as far as your eye could see. This whole thing, and there are a few that are left dotting the landscape, and you can find lots of foundations and things if you look, some more pronounced than others, like this one. I'm not even sure what this building is anymore. At one point I knew some of these more obscure ones, but it looked pretty sizable, didn't it? Since we're over here, let's just start with the schoolhouse. I reckon this is probably a 1905 or 1906 structure. And unfortunately, we're saying 1905 or 1906. It doesn't take long for this town to get abandoned beyond that, just so you know, and we'll talk about the reasons why. But at one point, you would have heard the sound of school children probably laughing, doing school children stuff. And if you look carefully too, you could still see wood embedded in the walls in there. You could see evidence of the past. So you can see right there in that sidewall, does not look like stairs to you that would have gone up to the second level. Here's a nice little picture of another building, the Overbury building. Would have been this right here, and there's nothing left. This would have been wall-to-wall buildings, really, is what you would have seen here on this street back then, next to the H.D. Porter 1906 mercantile store. You could see there would have been a porch in front of it, more signage, but the actual sign, I think, is original and still up there, which it makes it really cool. I've read some accounts of people that lived here back in the day and came back here after it was all gone, and just how sad, because this was a place, this was a town, this was somebody's life, somebody's childhood. A big chunk of their childhood probably occurred in this town, so it's just really sad. Imagine your hometown just being picked clean and with really nothing left. And we'll get into why that was a little bit more in a second too. This here might be the ultimate building for many here in town. The old Cook Bank building. I want to say this is a 1906 after Schwab invested in infrastructure in this town. Let's see here. It's the most iconic building in Rhyolite, it says, and is the most photographed ruin in Nevada. You can see what it would have looked like back in the day. Complete with a little buckboard wagon and a couple horses there. Because keep in mind, this was, I would say, so this thing began in 1907, right when things started to go downhill, ironically enough, here in town around 1907. There was a financial panic, and also the San Francisco earthquake, I think that was 1906, made it so people weren't able to invest in infrastructure as much after that giant disaster. So a couple factors start to play into why this town ends up disappearing off the map. So come, I don't know, late 1910s, I want to say, based on my remembrance, the mining company decided to have an independent assay, I guess, of their mines to really understand the value, because there was concern at that point, and I guess they did have reason to be concerned, because as you see, the mines were overvalued. They pretty much mined all the good stuff out, and come like 1907-ish or that period of time, it wasn't profitable, or was starting to become not profitable anymore, and they had just invested all of this infrastructure out here. It just would have been a magical time, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it would have burst. And you would have been sitting there thinking, if you're just the average Joe, like, what? And this Cook Bank building is perhaps the height of the opulence, maybe one could think of it that way. And it was very short-lived. So as towns like this go, when I say it's not profitable, a lot of these towns that start to go bust, they can still be worked. There are mines in the area, they still work them today. There's a giant pit mine over here, but in this time, it just wasn't profitable to do so. So then people just kind of start trailing off. People start moving to other towns, like the workers, the laborers. They need to go find work, so they leave the town, and they often like disassemble their homes, all of their wooden homes, because if you didn't notice, there's no wood around here. But they basically would disassemble everything and move it to towns like Beatty, for example. And my understanding, there's a few historic structures somewhere in there from this town. We'll have to seek that out sometime. But the picture I'm trying to paint for you is this would have been a very chatty, busy town, and now it's just dead silence and nothing. All right, I'm here in front of the Rhyolite train station. It's interesting if you look very carefully up there. This thing has been more than one thing throughout its time. It used to be a casino. I think it's called the Ghost Casino. And you could still see the letters in that sign up there. And if you look very carefully, I've also seen the words Rhyolite, which would have been in big letters there, taking up the whole sign when it was the railroad station for this. And my understanding is you could follow some of the old railroad grades in the area and drive on them. But I think the tracks actually came here in front of the building. This would have been the front side and would have come straight here. And there's a window there, like a bay window type structure. I wonder if that's where you would buy your tickets, maybe? I don't know. But the gate is still open, actually, as it was last time. And so I'm guessing it's intentional. The Rhyolite train station, an ex-casino and museum and curio shop, but primarily train station, servicing passengers in the very early 1900s here on 3 of the most well-known railroads in Nevada. And I like to always hang out here and just think of what the sights and smells would be. I always envision, you know, this is a society that probably placed a little bit more on class, and I could see You have people dressing a lot differently than they do today, probably a lot more formally. So you probably smell a lot of like cigar smoke and I don't know. There's lots of old wooden things around here too, like these benches. So these are probably original benches, original to the time, I would have to imagine. I love the gutters here, the coloration, that greenish yellow color and all of the accents they put on this thing. A very beautiful building, very intricate when you really start to study all of the touches they put on this thing. I also wanted to show you this caboose, this train car, which one of the signs here once said that it's an example of a repurposing of a train car for a miner's residence. But I've also read this used to be a gas station, probably back when this was a casino. If I had to guess, this would have been a touristy area. I also want to say this was a museum and curio shop all the way through the 1970s is my understanding, and then it just got boarded up. And I'm not sure if it's still private or not. At one point that was private, a private parcel here on BLM land. So I don't know if that's still the case and still privately owned, but I wish they would do something with that. A museum would be perfect. So in the same vein as that being a something other than a train station, this train car has served more than one purpose also. Well, a little update on Rhyolite 2024 style. I always like to come back and see it all over again, and hopefully picked up a couple more new people that never knew about it and taught you guys something new. But now I want to actually go to the next location here in this general vicinity. Kind of keeping an eye on the time too, and I had quite an agenda packed for today. And now I'm wondering if I need to slim it down a little bit. I may just do that. Got a couple more things to show you in this area, but there's something else I might want to see. And down Death Valley way. So we'll just drive back through town here, get one last look at it. But yeah, so by the end of the first decade or so of the 20th century, this is pretty much all done, all gone, and all that's left was just all the concrete and stone they couldn't really remove or didn't want to move. So welcome to the Goldwell Open Air Free Museum, and I'm going to walk you directly to what I think is probably the most well-known and popular art piece out here straight ahead of you with all these ghosts. So the artist's name was Ed Sokalski, and he was I think a Belgian artist, and this piece is his first piece he made out here called The Last Supper, a depiction of the Last Supper of Christ with Amargosa Valley in the background, and he made this in 1984. Basically what they did is they had, the artist had models hang out beneath like sheets or something like that they kind of put some kind of plaster material on to hold the form, and once they had that, then he covered that all in fiberglass so it could wear the elements out here. So they had actual real people standing underneath those sheets when they made that. And that's the magic behind it. It's really cool though. My favorite sculpture here, or piece of art, is this one here, which is a depiction of what appears to be a prospector and a penguin here in this desert with these beautiful backdrops. And this guy's facing Rhyolite, almost like he's pointing at it, and you can see those buildings we visited from Rhyolite right back there. This particular piece was made 10 years after the Last Supper piece by a Fred Bervowitz, another artist, and this is a tribute to Shorty Harris, the same prospector that had a hand in discovering the bullfrog claim that led to Rhyolite, and he had other fame in this area also. And we'll talk about him on our journeys, and we already have talked about him, but that's who the prospector is. Well, what about the penguin? Did Shorty Harris have a penguin? No, he did not. Penguins don't survive out here in the desert. So what is that all about? It's weird, isn't it? The only thing I could find on that is Fred the artist wanted to depict himself. And he said he felt, or it's thought that he felt like a penguin in the desert, meaning he felt very out of place here in the desert. So that's really the most common explanation, the only explanation I've read as to why the penguin. But the prospector and Shorty Harris, that makes sense to me. All right, I'm standing here at the former town site of Bullfrog. Didn't even make it 100 years, that town, for the same reasons. But you could see the Open Air Museum kind of in the center of the screen, and then right beyond that hill, you could see the bottle house in Rhyolite. You can actually see the buildings too. They just blend in actually to the landscape. So basically my point is Rhyolite is in within eye shot of this town of Bullfrog. So it wasn't far at all. So if people had to relocate from here to there, wouldn't have been a huge deal, but this is an interesting building. Each of these towns had an ice house where they would store ice. I'm assuming that's how they did it back then. I don't know if they made ice so much as brought it here and kept it cold. Don't know how that worked. They had ice cream at over in Rhyolite. And this is what's left of the Bullfrog ice house. Just this wall structure, and I've never seen it before. I've always driven by, I didn't know what it was, and the main thing of interest for me around Bullfrog that remains today would be the cemetery, which is not far. But this town had some size to it. It had multiple saloons, multiple hotels, a post office, pretty much the makings of any kind of good boom town. And yeah, it just got beat out fiercely and quickly by Rhyolite. And then of course, if you are a Cactus Atlas longtime fan, you might remember videos I made, or one in particular, out in this mess, this flat area back here. There's a dirt road, and the Bullfrog Cemetery is there, and there's a monument there. A lot of unmarked, like unknown graves. A lot of the wooden headstones that used to be there are gone. Probably the one of note that I remember is a grave for Panamint Annie. Quite a character of Death Valley fame, and I think she lived until the 1970s, but a prospector, a mechanic, lady with a very dirty mouth, I heard. Had lots of children. I heard she would mine with the kids strapped to her back. Sounds like my kind of people. I probably couldn't hang with someone like that though. Now, time to go into Death Valley itself, where I don't suspect things are going to get any warmer. But yeah, this was fun. It was really nice to kind of, to me, this is my gateway into Death Valley. It just served that purpose every time I come through here. So yeah, it's fun to come back and try to fill in the blanks with your mind. Try to see it as it once was. It's hard to do that though when there's so little left. Bye Rhyolite, and bye Bullfrog, and bye Goldwell Open Air Museum. I'll see you next time, and we'll be back. We're gonna do some of these off-road routes. Maybe even later this year. We'll have to see once it cools off. Alright, here's my sign, and some jerk had to write graffiti on it. I don't even know what does that mean, Coda? Is it some gang or some stupid crap like that? It's hard not to notice that graffiti. I just wonder, what does it mean? What meaning does it have to, how many people does it have meaning for? Like 3 people? Does anybody know what Coda means in this context? Is it a gang? What is it? And why does everybody else care? You know, I would tell you, I bet you there's probably 3 people that this has meaning for, and the rest don't care. All right, I've said before that once it's over like 105, 106 or something, you can't tell the difference anymore. I lied. This is ridiculously hot. This burns, it's so hot. When I pulled up, I saw it say 119. It now says 120. So you would expect to get it hotter as the afternoon goes on, so I'll buy it. And here it is, the official Furnace Creek temperature gauge. Currently sitting at 120 degrees Fahrenheit, 49 degrees Celsius. My car read 119 coming in here. I decided, you know, while we're here in Death Valley, even though it's
turn left.
112 degrees now, so it's gone down. It's gone down, everybody. It's 112 degrees. Sounds ludicrous to say that, but it's true.
Head north toward Echo Canyon Road.
We will. We're only like
600 feet. Turn left to stay on Echo Canyon Road.
24 minutes from something of like cool significance here that I wanted to just go see to tie things together. It just didn't feel right to not do something here in Death Valley, even though the hairs are getting singed off my arms every time I go outside of my truck.
Turn left to stay on Echo Canyon Road.
But now we're heading back into the valley here I wanted to just go check out Badwater Basin. Figured why not, in this extreme heat, go to the lowest place in North America, and where it only gets hotter the deeper you go. We're a little above sea level, like 100 some odd feet or more back where we're at the ranch, so very close to sea level, but still a little bit above it. Here we're going to be at, I forget how far below sea level, 100 feet, 200 feet, something like that, I don't know. So why not just bring on all the heat? It's a very beautiful landscape though, here in Death Valley, I must say. This would not be a proper Cactus Atlas episode unless we get into the mix, right? The completionist thing. Why? I was seriously questioning even going down here, but when I saw what the scene looks like, it's horrible for photography, I would say normally, but it perfectly accentuates the heat that I feel, the almost 120 degrees currently. 282 feet below sea level. 282 feet. I'm about to walk out onto this infernal plane, but I like to think more of it is that I'm passing through to the next lifetime, and this is what people with near-death experiences have experienced. It's just a blast. It's almost like maybe how you would feel if you were like, you know, if you play video games or fantasy games, maybe like you're a evil demon and your opponent is casting some kind of radiant, holy radiant spell on you and just burning you. That's what it is. Or even maybe a better one. I'm a vampire, and this is what it feels like to get exposed to daylight, the earliest rays of light. Yet I find myself continuing to walk in the wrong direction. This is how my brain is programmed. I don't know what it is. Well, folks, my camera's now showing the first signs of the overheating problem. I'm almost overheating, so I'm gonna leave you here in the middle of Badwater Basin, and you're gonna have to tune in next week to figure out if I make it back to my truck alive. Anyway, thanks for watching this one, and we'll see you on the next one.